All right, everyone. Hello and welcome back to Kit and Paw Knows Everything. There we go. Yeah, I joke. Again, we're looking at the next category here in Mordheim. We did physicals, so now we're going to look at the mentals. Always work on your mentals. I tell that to every new nurse I'm orienting. Just you always got to work on your mentals, right? It's a tough job. That's a tough life. So which brings us to Mordheim. It helps me work on my mentals. So I just want to start, first of all, saying thanks to Paranoia. I don't think I've done that yet, so it's probably not done enough. He gets so much shit on the forum, so I just want to say thank you for making this mod. It's kind of a thankless task. Luckily, he's in computer engineering. I don't know what the term is. Coding? Computer science? So kind of, I think he was doing it for his schooling. So again, it's still work, right? And thanks to Mork for making these lists too, so we can do these rankers. These are kind of fun. I enjoy doing content like this. It's fun to like give back to the community. Which, lastly, like thank you to the community. I can't believe we're still playing this fucking game. I don't know. It's been like a decade. It feels like. And so here's our little weird chess community. It's kind of just a really fucked up game of chess. Mordheim, and here we are still playing. And it's always fun to play everybody. It's always a joy, even though I'm stressed out. It's really difficult to stream these matches, but it's also a lot of fun. Your emotions are just raw in the moment, right? If you weren't streaming or just sitting at your computer, I'd be going through these emotions, but no one would know, right? It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? It makes a noise. I'm making a lot of noise if I'm streaming or not. And it's in a fun way. Even though it can be very stressful, it's still ultimately fun and keeps bringing us back. So, shout out to the community and all the people involved. So, without further ado, I think you can see here just just a minor category, leadership. Just a few icons there. Leadership's fun. Like if you look, they're all like blue pills, right? Look at all this SP. These are actives we're starting with. Um, and it's just a fun category. It makes only leaders can take some of the skills, which makes them unique and special. So that's fun. And they use the SP usually instead of the OP, so that's fun. That's where a lot of the tactics come in, is with this category, which is what makes the game so fun. So I've brought up the actives, and the way I did it is 3 to 9, or 3 to 15, whatever you want to say. We start with the lowest ones first. And as you can see here, that is guidance. So it's extremely niche, especially since there's not like, if you look at this list, there's very few that actually exist. Affects stupidity, okay. Paranoia doesn't exist. Half crazy doesn't exist. Megalomania, it exists, but you don't really need. Okay. You know what? I've never really. Does this truly block Megalomania so your unit could cast spells again? I've never actually thought about this. But that blocks like spell casting. Your unit can't cast spells or use range weapons. So in theory, this would take that away. I've always just kind of assumed that unit's just fucked. It's been changed in the mod, so you're not just fucked, but it has debuffs/buffs, just like every injury. But never really noticed that or thought about it. It's usually just stupidity, because I don't know what heroic idiocy is either. So it's got this whole list of things that kind of don't exist. So there's one unit that it does exist on, and that's the Rat Ogre. So you put guidance on your Rat Ogre. It's so bad that I believe the Skaven Eshin Sorcerer just starts with it in vanilla, so you can get that guy going. Now that it's an injury, it has more use. The only other thing is the Demonette. She can put this spell on you. Makes you just want to have sex with her. Hot Mordheim street sex. So you have to pass like a stupidity test, we'll just call it too. And so it can block that from occurring. So there's really narrow use window, right? Okay, so is it any good? Whoa, I'm touching the OBS. You might want to go to the window itself. Hey man, what's up? Welcome to my turn. So I mean, it has a role, but it's I think it's free to train. I mean, if you're using it on the Rat Ogre, it's hard to rate skills like this. It does its job, so it's okay. I think the other one requires some skill points to master. Yeah, it takes two, but it makes it last longer. Will anyone really truly take that? No. Maybe if you have just happen to have two skill points left and you're tired of doing the Rat Ogre. The thing about it is it allows the Rat Ogre to put on a rune on its head instead of the Lucidity rune. If you just pop that on there, you never have to take a test. So it's a very narrow use window, and it makes it awkward as hell. But everything fits, yeah. This kind of annoys me, actually. I guess it will always just keep doing that, though. This saver download crap as we move up. So we'll just accept it. Accept our fate. So there you go. These skills are always awkward to rank. Kind of ones that are functional, but like no one else is really going to use it. Does it do its job? Yeah, it does its job. That's it. Which moves us into retreat, which is also easy to train. It's like 0 cost. And then it's only 2 to master. And this skill, again, it's another one you're like, well, I got an open slot. And this is my leader. And I find myself taking this skill a lot, if that's the case. I believe my augur in the current tournament has it. So she could, in theory, if she has leftover SP, just turn to a guy, or girl, and be like, hey, get off his ass. And it disengages a unit. So that's good if you don't want to take damage. It's bad because you just freed up like maybe who it was engaged with, right? so I mean, again, it's got this kind of narrow use window, but it's like really useful when it works, and it's like easy to train. So I can't say it's bad. I would say it's good, honestly. Like if it's doing its job, it takes up a niche. It's just there, and it does something to save that unit. Say it's about to die. Interfacing the AI, you can say disengage and say it's 2 versus 1, or you could just put a new fresh henchman on there. You've literally just saved your unit's life. So in that sense, it's good. You can almost say great. But again, you're not going to like take it all the time. You're only taking it if you have an open slot. A lot of the melee resist leaders you do have an open slot. Honestly, a lot of units you have active, I'd say it's great, actually, in that sense, because you do have like a lot of open slots on the leaders. The mastery, it doesn't really matter. It increases the range. Usually going to be fighting around each other anyway. I think it makes it cost a little less. So remember for melee leaders, it already costs 1 less SP, so it would be then 2 less SP, so it'd only take 1 SP. So in that sense, it's interesting, but I don't think you're going to really spend the skill points on it. Maybe that's a little harsh. It's okay. So fun skills, right? Right off the bat, guidance does its job. Retreat really is useful when it's useful. Otherwise, you could leave it. But in that one moment, it could just save a unit's life, which is a big deal. So in that sense, it's great. I don't think you need to take the mastery version. You can and get a lot of use out of it. 1 SP to keep telling units to disengage, but that could be a nightmare too, like I've just said. You've just disengaged all the AI and they could just run rampant and just come and kill some unit you didn't want to die. So that would be bad. That would be a bad outcome. So it's fun to see it actually be useful. I can't even remember what it was from vanilla, which means it was probably terrible. This is going to be a fun category because now we have coordination, which is also a really fun skill. It's a way to increase initiative for a group. So group things are always awkward as hell to use. They're just so awkward. Some people have this view of, hey, it's really good because it affects a group. Okay, true. Do you know how awkward it is to group up in Mordheim first of all. Second of all, do you know how punishing that can be to group? Like, you could just get shit on when you're grouped up. If you just look at my match against True Griffin. Oh, thanks for grouping up. I'm going to throw this 20-meter gigantic fucking circle of doom and just kill your whole team. Appreciate it. Oh, thanks for grouping up. I'm going to put a big cloud of poison on you. You really made it easy for me. So, grouping up is also really bad. And in the heat of combat, it's really fucking awkward to do too. Like, hold on, time out. I'm going to just walk over here, use this very narrow window spell or skill, and then come back over. Like, that's awkward as hell to use. So, if you can tell, I kind of hate radius around the user's shit. I kind of hate it. It's really awkward to use. When you can get it to proc on a few things, great. Sometimes you might not even want it to. Like, hey, I want to increase the initiative on this unit. And then here's my wolf priest standing over here who's fucking crawling around the map at 20. Getting him to 40 isn't going to do anything. But here you go, you're in the circle anyway. Or you could see a unit's already fast at 75. Now it's 95. La-di-da, right? So it can be very awkward to use AoE things. So all this said is you could almost say it's net neutral. There's negatives and positives. Does that make something net neutral? Maybe. I still think it's kind of net negative because it's really hard to use around the user shit. Like, the best case scenario or example is the sisters have like Sigmar's Might, right? And it's a group buff. The warrior priest has a few of these too, like Prayer of Absolution and stuff. You get your nice group together, you cast the spell, and then you like take a curse and group stun everybody. That's just a blast. I've seen that numerous times. And it's just great when you can group stun your whole fucking team right in the middle of combat. Everyone loves that. It's good times. It's a good way to lose a match, obviously. And just one little thing, if a thing can make you lose a match, it's probably not a good thing, right? So, all this said, do I like what coordination does? Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's like a Crimson Shade. I think tournaments without consumables are much more fun because it involves tactics. You can't just like, oh, let me just chug shit to win. So this is kind of like a group Crimson Shade. Like, without consumables, these kind of skills become much better. You know, with consumables, everyone just chugs a Crimson Shade. You know, so this becomes like really an unnecessary skill in a lot of ways. You don't need to jump 40. 20 is usually plenty. Or you could mix in a weapon swap. So the 10 for 2 turns isn't as useful. I mean, if it does its job, great. It only costs you 2 to train, so you get more bang for the buck doing the 6. Of course, it's going to be a little better, and it's going to last longer, which is pretty standard in the mod. So in that sense, I would almost say it's okay. I've been using this more on my leaders. I've watched a lot of people use it in PvP, and I get a little jealous. I think Dig was a big user of this. And I've seen it on others, and it's like, when it happens to you, you're like, okay, that was kind of neat. That sucks that just happened to me. And so when I start trying it at basic, you usually very rarely like get an advantage. So I find it's not that great, but you have to take the basic to get to the mastery. The mastery, once you get there, especially on a leader that it only takes 2 on, or would it be 1? Yeah, it's 2. So say it's but then you can also take a skill that reduces it even to 1, I believe. That's right. So you can have like just 1 SP to like buff up a whole team's speed. That is great. I think that is great. So that's not a lot. It does let you move, use it, and then move and use it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a kind of a great skill. It's very tactical. I'm not going to say it like is it like not everyone's taking it every time, which is kind of what this category is. But it's definitely great. Like, it's usable in a build, and people use it in a build. Which gets us to Rallying Cry. It's just too niche, right? Just all alone. Now, say, this is the only one you'll have problems with if you're, say 75% of the time, right? we'll say 25% of the units out there you'll run into will have fear and terror. Depends on who you're facing, right? So like 75% of the time, the only thing your unit has to worry about is all alone. So in that sense, it's useful, but I mean, I very rarely put my units into an all alone. Like you've got to really have fucked up positioning or done something really wrong because you're going to die to an all alone anyway. Like unless it's a unit you specifically want in one, like a Serenity tank, then you're loving it. Like why would I? You don't want to block all alone. So if you're putting basically henchmen, right? You're putting a henchman into an all alone. Its stance is going to get broken, and then the next unit's going to act on it and start fucking it up. So I don't want to be immune to that. I just want to get the fuck out of there. Like I would prefer to just not be in an all alone. So I think it's got just a bad use window for Rallying Cry, and I think I rarely see it. So I think it's just bad only because of what it affects, and the mastery is always going to be worse. Right? Why would I continue to invest in something that's bad? And it doesn't even say anything about like trivial to train. This might like move it down, unless I'm missing something here. I would almost say it's really bad and awful. Because if you're putting your units in all alone, you generally always don't want to be in the all alone. It's not like, let me keep reinforcing this unit to be in this all alone. And it's very rare that you're stuck in an all alone you can't get out of. If it's PvP, you just say, sorry, buddy. Looks like you're going to have to, at least you're occupying two opponents and I can get an advantage elsewhere. You know what I mean? So it's just not a skill that's very useful in my opinion. Which gets us back to the awkward ass threaten. Target must be engaged and have. I mean, I helped work on this mod a bit. It's been quite a long time. I don't nearly have. And I was literally in the coding and trying to do things, and I could not figure out threaten. Like, there was something really fucked up with the coding going on. Because I had made like a little weapon mod pack and was tweaking other stuff, but I could not get threaten to work in the database to try to make it something more useful. So it's free to train, and I've literally used it. It's awkward as hell to use, but the only situation would be like a melee resistance tank. It's engaged with, say, an ogre, and the player doesn't like this. I don't want this to be the case. I want to get this ogre off of that unit. So I'm just going to delay to try to get, like, kill the unit some other way or get the ogre off somehow. So then I'm going to save his OP and try to get it off this unit. So you are like, oh, hold on there. No, you're not. I'm going to threaten you and make you use your OP to attack me and miss. And that's where I've actually used it. So I have used it. I think there's another skill. He's talking about rallying cry. I think there's another one that does affect fear and terror. So it's probably why it is split up. And we'll get to that one, which I've looked at, which I think I've thought about taking before. So threaten can be used, and I take it on melee resistance tanks. That said, I'm not sure if my augur has this or not. I think she has retreat instead, which we've talked about. And probably swift jump. I don't know. There's only a couple slots there to take something. But threaten can be useful, but we've wanted to change what it actually does, but I don't think we've been able to figure it out. I think there's things like prevent. I can't remember what it doesn't matter because we weren't able to make it work. Maybe it will work one day in the future. So threaten is kind of like bad, and of course this is awful. No one's going to take that. I'd almost say not good. Its use window is so fucking narrow. It's the problem. In PvE, everyone just uses their OP. They're not sitting on anything anyway. So if it's only useful in PvP and a lot of people don't want a PvP, like in that sense, I like to consider both. I think it's just bad, right? It literally would be awful. It's useless in PvE. But it has a use in PvP, but it's such a narrow use window that I've even taken it, have used it like once or twice in the history of playing this game. So in that sense, it's a really bad skill. You could rather take other free things, right? Let me get rid of these. This is a little awkward. There's so many that I have to. Courage. I think this is the one here. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Which it says right there. Hold ground. Taunt. I guess insult. Okay. So courage. Everything's still lined up correctly. You know what? I took threaten on my Lads Got Talent zealots. The ones that. So funny you mentioned that. I haven't had to use it yet. But that's a unit I have it on. It's like, oh no, you're not waiting. You're gonna swing at me and give me more damage. It's actually a unit I have it on. I just haven't had to use it yet. Lad's Got Talent, Zealot having a skill that builds up damage every time he gets hit. So a lot of times people don't want to hit him. So it's the perfect unit to build it on. That's the other one I have. Melee resistance and then Lad's Got Talent, Zealot. It's like, hit me in the face, bitch. So courage is back to rallying cry, right? I think that's what it was called. This is fear, terror, and all alone. It's literally the skill. The one gave immunity. This is giving like resistances. Well, you know what? That's basically going to be the same thing. You know, a lot of your units should be close to this upper levels. And I've thought about this skill a lot. I still haven't taken it. I think there's a way to reduce its cost with some of the passives. Don't quote me on the skill because I don't remember it. There's like Battle Tongue and some other ones that reduce its cost. So you can have this cost just 1 SP on melee leaders, which is really good. And then you like come back to it though, and it's this fucking 5 meters around the caster. Like, why does it always have to be that? I'm pretty sure the Smuggler has a single target version which she can just throw. It's like, I don't remember what it's called. Captain's Speech? There's like Captain's Order and Captain. Like, if it was like that, I think this would be a lot better. If you could just like encouraging words instead of courage. I think it'd be a lot better to like target the units you want. I would Skaven, Griffin says on Skaven it has a use. I would almost say it doesn't because of the Musk. Now, the Musk does the same thing and is around the caster, which is like the same thing. Now, the big question is, do I want immunity, which I think Musk does, or do I want to pass Serenity tests? And this is a big difference, and it's an important difference. It's a big distinction. So a lot of times you just want to pass the Serenity test. In that case, you want to know you're going to pass it, but you don't want to be immune. You want to take the test. So in that sense, Courage, I would say, is better than Musk. Because if both are going to guarantee a pass, you may as well take the one that's going to give you a buff, potentially. And I have thought about this skill a lot, and what it does is it allows you to skimp on a pendant or on your own leadership, which has its own problems. And the previous one we talked about, which I was like, I like toughness first, strength second, and third last. We haven't really talked about that yet. I think the mentals are pretty fucking equal, honestly. I like leadership. It has a good use for increasing morale, which is why you don't want to skimp on it necessarily, especially PvP. Intelligence, I think that has great uses too. And alertness, I do think that has great uses. This is a category where I think, and I find myself also just staring at all three and saying, I would be happy to take any of the three. I would say in this category, all three categories, leadership, intelligence, and alertness, are all very useful. So I'm not going to say one has a distinct advantage over the other, because they're all three useful in their own way, which is good. If you're designing a game, that's what you would like to see. So anyway, it can allow you to skimp a bit on the leadership category as long as you focus on your team's morale. And then you could switch out and have an amulet instead of a pendant and whatnot. So I think courage has a lot of use. I think it becomes tedious. Like, I don't want to have to worry about doing these things. And to have to do it, again, in a group, and it only lasts 3 turns, and battles can last longer than 3 turns, and then you find it's falling off, and at a crucial moment, you've now failed a courage test, a leadership test. Like, that's bad. So I think it has a lot of drawbacks. I would say it's okay. And I honestly think both are okay because I think like getting 20% can be enough. Like that's a pendant. For 2 turns, that's a bit more annoying. But that could be enough. And then the 40 for 3, now you've spent 6 skill points though, but it really is enough and it's going to last longer. So I think both are okay in this situation. It's pretty funny to put two together, but in this case I think both are okay. So 2 skill points versus 4, so 6 total. And then like if 20%'s enough, 20%'s enough, 40% might be overkill. So you might not want to go into that, but you might want to. And so in this case, I think both are just kind of okay. And the big part of okay is that it's around the caster. It fucking drives me nuts. You need to be right by the unit that needs that. If this was something I could throw across from 30 meters, I would say it's great. Maybe even elite, honestly. But this around the caster shit is so bad. Yeah, and Griffin saying the current tournament, I still have 0 purple talismans. I don't think I'm giving anything away. I think I don't know how fuck anyone has any. I have 0 purple talismans. This is gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a very big problem for me. So it's like you have unlimited consumables. Well, except talismans. Those don't fucking exist for some reason. I don't know what's with the coding on that and why they just don't drop. I have other rare things like, and I only mention it's rare because you can sell these things, right? And certain things sell at a higher price, and talisman's one of them. But so are like elixir, like all these other ones that are sell for a similar price. I have 5, 6, 8. I don't know, a lot, a decent amount, but I don't have any fucking talisman, so I don't know what that's about. So yeah, there will be more of an emphasis on taking amulets over pendants, but ultimately, I think I'm just gonna have to fucking eat terror tests. Just the magic's gonna be a bigger issue. So in this case, the point being, this would be useful, and it would be, except it's 5 meters around the goddamn unit. Like, how many split deployments has Griffin personally ran into? Myself. It is so hard to clump up your team into 5 meters around the unit to then get this off, and then go have a battle that takes many rounds spread out all over them. Like, it is so awkward to use. It almost makes me want to make it not good, but I think it's still just okay. But it's an issue. So that's probably enough about courage. It's also what stopped me from ever taking it. Which gets us to another one. Fucking hold ground. Increases dodge and parry. I took this, I believe, on a necromancer in my Skaven tournament when I played the Skaven. I wanted to talk. I don't know why. I did want to talk about it, but I didn't. Like, I was offered to use the undead in a previous tournament, and I was like, no, I don't want to take them. They're too broken. So everyone said no one wanted to take the Skaven, and everyone said the Skaven were terrible. So I took the Skaven, and I laughed because like one player, a few are saying Skaven are so broken now, which is funny because a lot of people still think they're terrible and whatnot. And anyway, I was just watching Mork's stream. He was talking about Swift Counter and whatnot, and getting back empowering runes and whatnot, and getting back OP when you parry. And I took this skill on my necromancers because they were just sitting there with some open slots. And I'm like, all right, let's buff the dodge and parry and whatnot. And it was okay, but again, it suffers from this 2 meters around the unit, which is fucking miserable. And I just don't like anything around the unit kind of stuff, but it can increase more of the characters. It's a little easier to clump up Skaven, right? So this is another skill that, while it can buff more at once, which is a good thing, it's still just so awkward to bring everyone back together again. So I think it has to just kind of be in the okay category, which might just be overflowing here soon. And again, I think it's kind of similar, like whenever something's not easier to train, if it's only giving it like a little bit more for a little bit longer, I don't think it's that much difference. I think you could easily pick between one or the other. And I think they have a niche and they do a purpose, but it's just awkward to use. Yeah, I think he said if most could be 10 meters, I think that's a point too. If it could be like a bigger radius, because there comes a point where you literally can't fit everyone into the circle, right? So okay, I can't. There's this Narcan advertisement on this tear maker thing. Narcan's used to reverse opioid overdoses. I don't know what the advertisers are trying to say about us or about me personally, but I don't think I need any Narcan. So, naloxone. I've used it at work plenty, but thank you, but no thank you. You guys can't see them because I've cropped the window. Unfortunately, you couldn't see my Narcan advertisement. Devs did not make a 10 meter. Well, you go ahead and make one. So I still think it's okay. It can have its uses on the great deployment. If you're trying to build a super dodge, like Mark was talking about flash parry and avoid. Well, this is basically that skill for everybody. You don't have to invest in it. Getting the 15 to 20 is nice, right? So it's got its uses. You can get it pretty early on, and you can also take flash parry and then this, right? And then you're really getting your little babies going, right? It's only 6 leadership. You can have 30% more parry on like level 1s and 2s, whatever. That's probably a pretty good thing. So then we get into taunt. Okay. I fucking hate taunt. I hate it. The AI taunts me. I just rage. It fucks up so much. But I never use taunt. I never use it. I'm like, fuck this skill. It is the dream AI skill. Holy shit. Like, the AI loves taunt, yes. And they crush me with it. You're like, I just want to delay. So once this unit's dead, I can move this injured unit. And they're like, nope, go fuck yourself. And they taunt you. It's so goddamn annoying. So if a player took it, yeah, it would be actually kind of fucking annoying. But no one kind of takes it because, first of all, it takes 2 and 4. There's no cheapness to it. I think they should be like free to train. Yeah, the AI never disengage, so you don't need it yourself. That's a point. Like, why would I ever take this in PvE? I don't care. It's strictly a PvP skill, just like another one, like Threaten we talked about. You would never use Threaten or Taunt. And there's something to be said for skills that are only useful in PvP. I mean, that's kind of where the game's at. You know, it's been around forever. So I'm kind of okay with that. I think it should be nothing to train, and then like trivial. I think it's called trivial to train, and then easy to master. So I think it would see a lot more use in PvP. Like, hey, you want to delay? Well, go fuck yourself. If it was free to train, I think like everyone would be taking taunt as a free skill. We've talked about free skills and how powerful they can be, like bull charge and swift jump. I would really take taunt on a lot of units, especially henchmen. And I think it'd be really useful. It'd be very nice to be like, no, I'd like fuck over your opponent. Be like, no, you're kind of stuck with me. You've made this decision, or you're here, or I've caught you here. You're not going to wait. So I wish it would be trivial to train and easy to master. Then I would move it way up. The fact that it costs 6 skill points, you're going to make me 6 skill points for that? Like, no, thank you. So let's go to the little muscle. The right window here. I think it's really, oh no. Guys, it just says really. And then awful. I think it's really bad. Just because you can't at all use it in PvE. But if it was PvP, I think it would go up to like good to great. It's not going to be godly and elite. But like fucking up a unit you caught out of position or something should be rewarded. I think if it was 0 to train, it'd be up here. But as it is, to spend 2 skill points, I think it's pretty bad. You know, I could move it to knock. No, I mean, who wants to spend 2 skill points on that? It's because it's so niche. You don't know if your unit, the opponent you're facing, would even want it, and you literally can't use it in PvE, right? So who would know if they'd want to like be messed up by that taunt, the delay or disengage? I mean, the disengage, you could see some use in that. I think yeah, flee, it's all in there. So you kind of punish them and keep them close to you, which is the design of the skill. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't used it enough. Maybe I'm being kind of cruel to it. I've had it used like when it's used against you, right? It's so fucking annoying. So maybe I'm being a little mean on it. Yeah, I mean, is it so bad though? Like, how many situations are you going to be like, well, I did want to move that unit, and then it becomes annoying, right? I think it's just still got this narrow use window, and it will never be used in PvE, which makes again that's why I keep bringing it back down here. So we'll just say it's bad because you will literally never use it in PvE. But I do like to consider all aspects in the game. Did we do intimidate? No. These are the last ones. Order and war cry. These are such fun categories. I think it's a fun group. This really is a fun group. This is what makes the game so fun is these leadership skills. There's a lot of things, but these are just really fun SP use kind of things. Yeah, right? Like I'm sitting here, I didn't mention it, but I'm using, you mentioned it, hamstring, right? And I'm using it a lot in Righteous Fury. It would literally just lock a unit in. But my theory, my point of taking those was to prevent stances, to prevent use of consumables. Those are like my first two reasons for taking it, honestly. The third would be to like, if you really get someone, you can disengage yourself or use that retreat, which is why I took it on the auger, and the unit's just standing there. The problem with the sisters, they don't really have a hard punish, but now I do. Now I have some marksmen, which is where I was always building towards, which is why I gave every fucking stone I owned to the marksman faction, whatever they were, and to get to rank 4 there. And so now you can disengage and just hard punish someone. They just have to sit there and eat arrows. In theory, comments too, but I've gone off the deep end with comments. But just hard punish somebody. So in that sense, taunt wouldn't really do anything because the way I was trying to approach it. So I don't know. Like I want to like taunt, but again, I don't know. I don't know. The AI when I use it against me, Jesus Christ. So insult, this is like a staple of vanilla. Like holy hell. And I'd still say it's pretty much a staple in the mod too. I can't remember how it's been tweaked. I think the numbers were lowered, but then longer duration. It was only like 1 turn, so you'd have to keep applying insult. So the way it would work in vanilla, you'd insult and take your stance, which stances were 4. So that was like always the combination. Yeah, I can't use any SP. I have to insult and then take a stance over and over and over. So insult's generally always good. Like you don't even necessarily have to fight a melee resistance unit. Some unit you like very rarely just walk around with 95% hit chance. The only times is if it's like a two-hander or like a guy with a bow or something, right? So in PvE, you know, a lot of the AI uses shields. A lot of the AI has the weirdest fucking stats, and they take like intelligence and, or I'm sorry, alertness and agility, and so they just randomly have this higher melee resistance numbers, or they take a skill. So it can be generally just useful all the time to get that extra 10%. Um, I have it on both of I have mastery and basic currently in this tournament I'm using. So I think it's still like a very good skill. If you want to apply, guarantee you kind of land a skill shot, in this case, Righteous Fury for me, which has malice to hit penalties, like this is something you very much want. I would say it's elite, and the mastery is just kind of great. The stacking is what's really important. Plus, who doesn't love this little swear? It clearly says shit or fuck, but that doesn't make sense. You'd say fuck you, right? It's a 4-letter word, right? Maybe there's some better four-letter swear words in different languages, but we could just make it shit. But that's not really an insult, right? Fuck your mama? I don't know. Is that what it's saying? So it's a good elite skill. I would almost say godly, honestly. Like, it's pretty standard on henchmen. And now that you can do 3 for insult and 3 for a stance, it's very useful once you're in combat. And then taking down melee resistance builds, it's very useful. It's a good way to stack things. I don't think this is overemphasizing its use. I mean, I still think it very much has a use, especially if you're going to want to hit things. Like, this is probably the number one thing you take if you want to hit things, as well as a mace, maybe combat focus, which is right. It's like such a good thing. Dick, there you go. Thanks. Cunt. Thank you. I knew you guys would come through. I like that. Yeah, it depends if it's a man or a woman, right? You can call him a dick or a cunt. Dick. The zombie will just keep drooling on you. What? Speaking of which, is Intimidate next? Yes, it is. I really like this skill. Why? Like, I can't get enough of attracting lure. And it's so mentally funny. Like, I love attracting lure. I can't get enough of attracting lure. And then there's Intimidate, which is like everyone else is attracting lure, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want that. Do I want that? Yeah, I do. It's really fucking good still. So attracting lure is 2 SP and 2 OP, which feels okay. Like, oh, that's a decent cost. This one's only 3 SP. Like, it takes 2 less OP. So it's a little more awkward to use, right? You better pass it, right? Or you only get a couple tries. And so it's different in that sense too, in that they have a better chance of resisting. So in the game, you want the unique warband specific skill to be better than any vanilla version. And attracting lure, I would say, is in this case. Even though it costs 2 SP and 2 OP, that means henchmen can use it more often, even though it's costing you OP. But then you also have a better chance of the unit failing. So this is what everyone else gets. And if, like, you love, like, the attracting lure, why would I not love this? And I've kind of had to come around full circle towards it. I used to only kind of take it on Templars. Like, it was standard on my Templars because they can't disengage. Another unit would be ghouls. Any unit that can't disengage, impressives, I think they really want Intimidate. But Intimidate has other functions. It can break a stance. Like, oh shit, they're in Mastery Sidestep. Well, let me Intimidate them. Oh, you're not in Mastery Sidestep anymore. Or you 2v1, right? I got 2 of my units against you, and I've set it up correctly. I can Intimidate you. You'll run away and get slapped. Just slapped. Even if you have, like, tiring on a 2-hand or dual weapon, I get to do another attack for free. Which, by the way, does increase your tiring effect. I don't know if you guys... So if you, like, delayed, lured, and then your 2-handed unit got the free attack, if you're delaying them, they'd actually cost 1 more. I don't know if that's common knowledge. So in that sense, I really like Intimidate. Yeah, I agree. The rough thing is this chance. It's pretty rough. The leadership, okay. I'm pretty sure it's leadership times 4. Is it times 5 or 4? So whatever your leadership number is, I think times 4. So let's say you have 10 leadership, which is pretty standard, honestly. No one's walking around with, like, 0 leadership because they'd have no morale. You'd be dead after 3 units. So you're looking at 40 plus 25, that's 65. Like, that's kind of rough, right? And that's where it becomes, like, awkward as hell, because you have to have kind of a decent roll with it. So, yeah, he's saying you have to master it. At the same time, it's a skill you kind of like, well, I have 2 skill points just sitting here. I think my melee resistance matriarch has it. And I used it just last PvE, I think. PvP against somebody, and it worked. And it's like, okay, she's free again. Like, it's something you would definitely throw on an impressive. I believe Mork's Ogre used it against me, and it fucking passed every time. And it's it just wrecks you, right? So I think he got like this crit stun against me with it. It was so annoying. So it can be like game changing in that regard, and if that's a case, then that's a good thing. Plus, this guy looks really fucking awesome. Like it's like I never really noticed it's like a mean mugging you, like which makes sense. It's intimidate. So good job whoever drew that. We've been on and on and on. I think it's great. I still think it's great. Like if it procs, it's great, and it only costs you two skill points, which is pretty fucking good. Um, this one costing 6, I actually put a little lower because you had to spend 6, and it only reduces it by 20%, right? That is not okay. It's 30, but that's still like not amazing. Because if we're talking about someone with 10 leadership, you're talking about only a 35% chance to resist. But then there's a pretty good chance to not. So I mentioned zombies. They have like 3 leadership. Like and what unit don't you want gumming you up is a zombie. So you just intimidate away the zombie. Somehow that affects it. Even it's the zombie, and that little fucker's gone, right? So we'll talk about in the passives. There's some leadership skills where I didn't pre-set up that window. I'll have to do it here. Where it reduces your leadership values, and you'd probably want to take it with something with that as well. But yeah, it fed up the zombie into the vampire, and he shuddered a little. These last skills are like definitely like the bread and butter of leadership, so it's going to make sense that they're probably going to be a little higher rated. Which brings us to the next one, which is order. Like, this is just so fucking standard in vanilla. And the reason it was standard in vanilla is everything lasted 1 turn. Like, your buffs, you buffed up, and it took so much effort to buff that fucker that you're going to make it use its keep attacking. And you would just, like, crush units. Like, you could have, I remember my original possessed little tanks. I love those guys. They'd be popping out 250 damage a hit, I think it was. 200 to 250. Once you got them buffed up with the Daredevil and all that. So you better believe you're ordering the shit out of that thing. And you'd delay, and you'd walk over, and you'd order it some more. And so there's a reason it's been changed a bit in the mod. Mork was just talking about Jawstrike destroying order leaders. Well, order units were a bane upon the land. Everyone had one. And so it was really fucking annoying. So there was no way to counter them at all. So Jawstrike has the ability to stop these kind of, all of them, like Insult, I think like all these kind of leadership skills. If you take Jawstrike and hit the leader, who's the only one that can use a lot of these, you've disabled them. So I think it's okay. Like, you don't want to put your leader in harm's way. And if you did and you got Jawstruck, well, you know, that's a counter. And there should be counters to everything in the game. Is it too hard of a counter? I don't know. But order, basically, you take a really hard-hitting unit, also known as the impressive usually, and just, in this case, my possessed, you just tell it to keep attacking something, which is really fucking strong. Like, let's talk about how strong that is, right? That is really strong. To give more OP to a unit is basically what it is. You're just transferring. It's basically Sigmar's second wind for everybody. Like, here, you just keep attacking. Like, that's really strong. So you can take skills that reduce it down to 3 OP. He added the SP because it was still so prevalent, especially with caster leaders who want to stay in the back. So melee units, it doesn't cost that. And you can take Battle Tongue, which reduces it to 3. So I still think it's like very much part of a meta to the game. And I would say order is elite. There's a reason only the leader can get it. I don't know why it's got this question mark. I mean, so here's the other way you countered order. You put 2 units against that impressive, and then you have a 50-50 chance it might attack into the one you don't want it to. I would say the mastery is just good. It's definitely worth taking. I don't think it's 100% necessary, though. Most cases, I find myself just wanting to take the 4 skill points into something else, maybe even the Battle Tongue itself, for example, because you need to have some survivability. It increases your range and gives you some hit chance. Most of these guys are going to have great hit chance anyway. Think about impressives. They're always going to be like 20 plus weapon skill. And possess have extra arms and all this shit going on. So you're usually just always hitting something. In that situation where you're up against a melee resist tank, it can make a difference. It's 15% more, and you can stay back a little further. I don't know if that's necessarily worth all that extra stuff. It's good if it works. It's good. It's good. I'm not saying it's terrible. It's a good in mastery. I just think, you don't necessarily have to take it. It is nice, right? Yeah, he's saying giving an insult. Basically, you take that with these insults. Well, I like these. Why wouldn't you like? Well, okay. We'll say it's great. If you're really gonna invest in it, I think it's worth maybe the extra. But it's the fact that it is extra. I think it can honestly be trivial to train, but maybe that's too much of a reward. But I think order is still very much a active living meta in the game, especially with impressives. And I do hope to do Battle of Behemoths after this, a rank 10 PvP where you bring impressives. You don't necessarily always have to, but I want people to bring impressives. And that's going to be just standard. Like, why wouldn't it be? So you'll see probably a lot of jaw strike too, though, right? So there'll be a lot of tactics. The range isn't to be lost either, though. Like, that's significant. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. I still think basic's enough, and I generally only just take basic. But if you're going down that path, I could see where it's great. So, and poor little Warcry. I want to like Warcry. I really do. But I think these are just too anemic. Like, okay, we got this open. Let's drop in a. Everyone loves spear. We're gonna take a spear. We do 36 damage. You're gonna do 7 more damage with Mastery Warcry. Right? And it's this fucking around the caster thing. And that's without even this is against a unit with 0 armor, right? Most units have armor. So you're really doing like 3 to 5 more damage for a mastery level skill around the caster. Like, holy shit. I can't get behind it. Now, you could say, well, you take Warcry, and then you take Sigmar's Might, and you take Frenzy, and you start to stack these things. Okay, yeah. But do you realize the amount of effort in that? I have to, like, group you up and do Warcry. I have to group you up and do Sigmar's Might. Like, I'm literally playing Sisters, and I can't be fucked with this skill, I can't even be bothered. So, like, I want to use it. I'd much rather go in there and do a coordination, though. If I'm using skill points, let's do that. Which is what Paranoia just talked about. Like, yeah, you can use it in conjunction with other ones, but, like, there's only so many skill points in a build. We have to acknowledge this. Like, I think this could easily be 20-40, and it's fine. I don't think it, like, would it become standard? Maybe. On a unit that wants to be like a cheerleader kind of unit, I think, and that's a good thing. Like, let's have cheerleader units. That's cool. You know? I think it's a niche that's not quite used as much as it could be. So I think it's just too anemic. This could even be 30, right? I don't know, 20, 30. Let's up it a little bit. So there's the window. It kind of makes me sad. I don't think it's not. Again, it's funny. All of these are like literally right there, right? Like, I think the mastery and the basic, take it or leave it. I mean, it's just like, how annoying will it be to keep applying it? Like, 5% isn't a big deal. That's minuscule damage, right? You're basically talking about like 1 more damage. We just did the math. 1 to 2 more damage. Do I just want to keep reapplying this fucking thing and be annoyed with it? That's really all you're looking at. That's also why I think there has to be a bigger gap, like 15 and 30. You either have to make this a bigger gap or make the masteries trivial. Yeah, having it increased ranged, I think, is good too. I agree. I think there's ways like to tweak this to make it great. You want them to be great. It's not to say, like, okay's, like, it's okay to be okay, but, 'cause, like, I don't know, I think, like, 30 is, like, the, like, the, 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 like, okay. when you have things that are up here, it's awkward, right? Um, so I think it could be improved. You could say you can nerf these, but I don't think you should. I think these are working fine. Um, these, I think a lot of these were just down here because of the way they functioned. Like these specifically, you never use in PvE, right? That was a problem. Like why take mastery guidance? And then we talked about why would I, why would I only care about all alone? It's just like too niche, right? Um, okay, I kind of messed this up, so I have to just reorder. Last time I ordered, fuck, I don't want the captain either. I think we have to switch to. I think I use like the superior for these. Before I had them all set up, so I could just tab over. Whole-headed, inspiring. Whoop. Nerves of Steel. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to talk about that with the sisters. Fucking passive. Demoralize, that's what it's called. I am so sad no one's used that. I am so sad. Brings me great sadness. I feel like this is a bit more awkward. Okay. The passives never are as long. It's funny. There's just much shorter sentences. There's less to describe, I guess. All right, cool-headed. You can see where this is going. Chance to pass all alone. So that's funny. Like the only warband that's useful against is sisters. I've been fighting. All these people have massive all alone resistance against me because they could give a fuck about my fear and terror. So like everyone just took all alone stuff, but like that's so niche. Like this should be trivial to train. To be quite honest, I can't believe it costs anything. Like why would you only care about one thing? It's if you're gonna like worry about the mentals, you're gonna worry about the mentals. So it's awkward as hell to only have all alone matter. And this is because nerves of steel right down here, it's like split out, right? But you already have a naturally 10% more chance of passing all alones as well. And if your unit's in an all alone, you've probably done it on purpose, or it's kind of fucked anyway. We've talked about it. It's taking multiple hits from the AI, and it's not going to live forever. So I think like something like cool-headed is just not something you're going to worry about too much. And you definitely know you're going to take that one, like 60%. My God. So I think they just live down here, and we'll put it right next to its leadership active version, just so they can have some symmetry with that, how terrible those are. Inspiring. This is, we've talked about it with, it's funny because the other ones were in the physicals. We've already done acrobatic and I think like the martial one. So here's the final one. These are just like okay. I don't know how else to like rate them higher. Like they do their job. Like if you want to add 5 mental maximums, you take inspiring. Luckily this one's more useful. Like the acrobatic one was awkward as hell being 9 agility because in most cases you had to get up there just to get it. So most units are kind of taking 9 leadership anyway, or have decently high leadership and wanted to up the leadership and then get something else. So it's fine in that regard. And this one does increase morale, which is useful in a sense. So if it makes a build, then it's doing its job. If it's not making a build, then you're never really going to take it, right? So it's the scales of justice, which don't exist anymore. So I think both are just kind of okay again. Like if it's making your build, it's making your build. I can't really think of any time I've actually used it. There's very few that need the mentals to get to where they want to be. But if it's making your build, it's making your build. I really don't know what else to say about that, which is okay. It's not going to say that's great and amazing. I'm not going to say it's useless. It's cool to have that change because before this was just pretty useless. So to have these tacked on to useless skills is very cool. Nerves of Steel, I think, is pretty good because fear and terror, as we've been talking about, is the issue. And if this is like replacing your pendant, then okay. Again, all alone has 10% more anyway, so it's not as important. And you're rarely truly in an all alone if you set up your unit correctly versus the AI and you're doing things correctly. Why would it ever be in a 2 versus 1? And if it is, it's kind of fucked, right? So this is a way to replace a pendant. And it's a pretty good option on a lot of henchmen, like to get you, because they kind of hit a wall with the leaderships. It could be okay on a hero to get to the point, and every now and again I use Nerves of Steel, but it's not going to be like game changing, of course, because just like any other skill like this, it has a narrow use window. There's a niche to it. So I would say it's okay, but then like the mastery is kind of bad. Like it's so extreme. Like why would I need 60%? That's like so fucking huge. Um, like plus it's a leadership skill, right? Like I need to get to 9 leadership to then get 60. Like let's let's put us at 9 leadership. We're already at 67% fear and terror. So now I'm at 127. Oh, okay, right? So you see the point? It might actually drop it even lower based off of that. So like really, like if you're worried about like demoralize or something else, right? But so I don't think it's that good. Um, which is I don't know. It's awkward with these skills. I don't envy him having to do these. Demoralize. This is totally rechanged. This used to be just the dismay rune. I love this change because sometimes you don't care about fear, terror, and all alone. Sometimes you want to intimidate, right? Like no one is using this. I never see anyone using this, and I am. It makes like no one was using hamstring, and it bothered the shit out of me. So this tournament, I was like, I'm just gonna make hamstring sisters, and piss everyone off, because I think everyone's missing the power in this, and I think demoralize is exactly the same. I don't know. I'm looking at the builder. Since I had the builder open right here, I gave her 9 leadership. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I have it fucking on right now, right? So it's adding the 20%. So she's actually at 47. You're right. I fucked up. Okay. Okay. Duh. We'll put it right there with its friend. So that could be good. You'd have 77% all. No, you'd have 57% all alone, which is, you know, I don't know. It's easy to master, so I think it's okay. Thank you. Stand corrected. Forgot it's adding the math to it. Um, so demoralize. I really wish some people would take this, like namely the undead. Like I just talked about how the sisters have zero fucking intimidating thing. They don't do fear, terror. Everyone can do it all alone. You know, it doesn't really work for me. But I think there's a lot of war bands, witch hunters, undead, like the DLC war bands. You could say the cult. Like I really want to see people use demoralize, and I think it's really good. Like I've talked about over and over builds that want to stack passive debuffs, and demoralize is one of them. Dismay is another one. Here's the thing: you could take demoralize as your passive, right? Then you put a dismay weapon on your hand, and then you put a dismay item on your helmet. You hit like 3 times, 3 times with the henchman. You've just like totally fucked over a unit's morale. Like it's gonna fail all these fear and terrors, and you're just gonna be like wrecking people, absolutely wrecking people with the way he overbuffed, in my opinion, fear and terror, and it's everywhere now. Like I don't know why there isn't more use of demoralize. I think people have said they've tried it and didn't love the results, but it's hard for me to imagine that having. And this is something PVE you're going to have a lot of use out of. I could see now the one counter like, okay, what murders me in PVE or PvP are impressives and demons, and this doesn't do shit to them, and that's true. That's a big good counterpoint, which is why it's not elite or whatever. But I think this is a great skill that people just are sleeping on, especially like in the Chaos Warbands. If you drop down an Idol of Pestilence, you're dropping the leadership rapidly. You can put down the Idol of Death and drop Fear and Terror really instantly. You can take the Magister and throw out the Curse of Chaos and hope you roll for the leaderships and drop that. Plus, you'll drop Alertness, so they're going to drop on the initiative ladder for even more hard punishment. And then you could take the Eshin, and the Eshin can throw out Lightning, and maybe you get the -5 to the mentals, right? There's a lot of ways for the chaotic warbands to just capitalize on this stuff. And I think it should be like strongly used in the chaotic teams, and I just don't see that. I also mentioned Witch Hunters because they can basically put Fear and Terror on every fucking unit, which is its own issue. And so you can get really good like stance bypass, melee resistance defense. Like if you drop the weapon skill to 1, like that's a big deal. If people are failing their turns, they're all alones. That's a big deal. They've just lost their turn. Like that's massive. And I just think it's not utilized enough. Like debuffs are like really good. Like I've talked about in the forum, Sharpshooter, stacking critical, like Dismay. There's not many of them. There's like Quick Incision. There's a few that like Innervation, right? You want to stack these things, and Demoralize is one of them. And it's these builds that like are like, oh yeah, you're just hitting me for like 10 damage, man. You're barely getting me. But what you're really doing is like, no, actually, I've just been stacking Dismay and Demoralize on you, and you're just fucked now, right? Like these things matter. Like they stack up, and they really stack up. So I haven't used them yet. If I was doing the Undead or something this tournament, I would be using the shit out of these. Okay, why are they the exact same? Okay, this has like an arrow down. Did I fuck that up? No. I think, again, because of its narrow use window, is the only thing that keeps it out of Elite and Godly. Like the most dangerous units, it's not going to do anything against. Like, oh, I've demoralized the Demonette. But yeah, so like Dismay, Demoralize, and the Idol of Death, everyone's going to have 0% chance. Quickly. They're quickly going to fail. It's not even going to be like, ah, fucking AI, they passed it again. They're going to just be shitting themselves and just running all over the map. And then what's nice about that? Well, you just take your time and pick up every piece of loot. Like I'm getting a lot of advantage in this tournament with the SP sucking. Like that was the other reason I took it. Is like I had a Demonette. I have pinning shots now. Big secret exposed. You can like pin it, do a hamstring, a righteous. It just fucking stands there and looks at you. Like, all right, you just sit there for 3 turns. I'm gonna go do some things, or just slowly kill you. You know, I'm gonna take my time here and loot. And you can do that to the impressive. You know, like there's something to be said for like stalling. Like it's very important to getting a lot of loot. So that's a very important thing in PvE. And I think it could be very destructive in PvP as well. So I think it's something that's been slept on, and I hope someone makes it. And I want to see a really fun Demoralized Warband. Plus, it's like super thematic. Like, isn't that fun? Like, that's a fun thing. So we get the Force of Will. I have no idea why this is 9 and 15. Like, holy shit. A tertiary roll under a 9-15? Are you fucking kidding me, right? The only unit that wants this is a Doomweaver. I think he gets like 9 leadership at best. And I kind of want to look at it. 9. Yeah, he's maxed at 9. This fucker ain't even taking mastery. Like, this has problems. I've just lost it now, but you get it. It's the last skill. Oh, we have Serenity, too. I'm sorry. Which is, how do we save the best for last here? So, like, who is this for, right? I just don't understand who it's for. That is so obsessed and worried about a tertiary roll like stun resistance, and you just chug Drought of Clarity. Problem solved, right? Why am I missing some of these? What did I fuck up here? Oh, because I think it has to be a leader. My bad. Damn it. All the leaders have passives, don't they? Okay, sorry. That's why. We did cool-headed, right? I don't think we did inspire. No, we did inspiring. Damn it. There's commander. We definitely did. And battle tongue's gonna be in here. Heroic presence. Force of will. Then we'll get to serenity last. I'm sorry, I jumped around now. We're at force of will. I just don't see who's going to use that. There's the intelligence version that he's going to take. I think it needs just totally redesigned. I can't even take it off of awful, to be honest. Maybe really bad for the basic. It could be immune. Yeah. Honestly, if you're spending 15 leadership, it should be fucking immune to stun. I agree. Give me 200 stun. Like, who has that? Isn't that the bloodletter? You literally can't stun him. Like, oof. I don't know who's ever gonna, like, you could say an impressive, but they're usually large and are immune to stun anyway. And who's gonna stun you? It's like headshot or overpower. We talked about overpower being terrible. So it's casting and then stunning yourself, which comes back to the Doomweaver. I don't know. They just totally need looked at again. Let me get rid of that really fast now, so I don't forget. And then I don't know why it's a drop of blood. It's like so bizarre to me. God damn it. There it is. We'll finish Serenity and then go back to the leadership only one. So this had to be nerfed. You did nerf it, and I think it was appropriate. On the henchman, I believe it was 15% for 2 turns, and that was like hellacious. It was like standard on novices and any kind of melee resistance build like Skaven, Verminkin. I still think it's very kind of useful. I've gone back and forth on taking it on my novices. The problem is in this progression tournament, it's really hard for me to make them truly like melee resistant, right? I don't have the runes I really want. It's hard to make them melee resistance ish. So they're much more dodge, and if I get a miss, that's cool. And that's kind of what stopped me from taking Serenity on them. So in true, like, and this is something that is very useful in PvE all the time, not just PvP. So I would say it's still great if you're making a melee resist henchman. Like 10% is a big deal, like, right? And so you can get 20% melee resistance is basically your cap. And 20% chance to avoid being hit for a henchman who then only has a secondary level of sidestep. You can't take mastery, or you can only take basic defensive stand, right? There's only so many things you can take. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. I would say it's great. And I think Serenity's just godly, honestly. I know it's been nerfed and changed. And here's the thing, it has a narrow use window, but when you get it firing up, and here's the thing, the narrow use window is the most dangerous units in the game. That's a nice use window. So my augur has just been able to stand in there in every PvE against every demon, every impressive, vampire, anything that's fucking scary, it just walks in there. Now, you're most vulnerable turn 1. Lucky, turn 1 is also when you can usually kind of hanging out together, and you can cast like the Wolf Priest spell or Divine. You can cast these things to kind of get into combat. Once this thing is up and running, 60% melee resistance. It could be 120. I had the dream scenario where I was all alone and feared, and it's just absurd, right? What that can stack up to. Now, there's been debate like how Like if you change this at all, it's suddenly like ass again, right? You could maybe consider 15% for 3 turns. I think it's still good. I still think it's good at 15% for 3 turns. And that might be what it needs. I don't know, right? I think that brings it down to great. But like as a melee resistance tank, this is standard for like tanking the most dangerous things in the game. That's the only way to tank the most dangerous things in the game is Serenity. The only other option is like, you know what I've talked, like ranged can kind of like pinning shots and just fuck it up and get it from even reaching you. Like a hamstring and stuff, I still have to like eat a couple hits, which is nerve wracking. Like you're like, okay, is my unit fuck this match and it's gonna get crit at 5%, you know? Is something horrible about to happen? There's still ways to fix that with knee shots and stuff, which is why I think those are very powerful because you can still save a unit that's been crit during its turn, which is like the worst fucking thing ever. But I think Serenity is by far the #1 way to deal with these things. So these are the fun ones too. I love all of this. This is just, I've talked about this over and over while doing these. Like these like 0-2, 0-4, 2-2 skills are just a blast. It's what makes the game in the mod like a pleasure. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that, especially these skills we've been talking about in the fucking trash heap, right? A big way to fix them is like, oh, they're free, but you're still limited by slots, right? So it's not a cure-all, but it's a big part of what makes this fun. So these commander skills, no one touched them in vanilla because they were 6 skill points. Jesus Christ. Commander having the route test increase. Okay, can we talk about how bad that is in PvE? Hey guys, I got good news. More of you can die this mission. Right? So if the AI takes it, hopefully they do. I don't know if that's coded in. Jesus Christ, that could be annoying. Like, okay, this guy's got like 1 hit left from dying. I just need to kill them and then they'll route. And then how often do they pass and then you're just fucked, right? So now, PvP, it's pretty much the alternate to having morale. Yes. PvP, I might want to stay in there. I might. Maybe it's a back and forth match and I have a chance. And my units aren't dying anyway. It's a fucking PvP. Everyone's going to come back. We're going to redo it all again. Commander can be useful, but I have to consider the entirety of the game. So that immediately moves it down some notches, right? It's going to be hard to find a way to find use for it. I would still say it's bad. Like, just don't get routed. You know what you want to do? Spend your skill points on not getting routed. Like 10%, okay. Easy to master, okay. Like I could see some strategy around it. And nobody's here, so we'll just say not good, honestly. It's not good. It's below okay. There's a strategy to it. The sisters particularly have one that increases route, and I could go on about that skill again. Like, it's a fail option though. Like, this is my safety net. If I'm failing, I can fail harder now, and they can get more stone off the map. Like it's just weird. It's a weird mechanic. Yeah, exactly. Like, so you can have like I can let my team die even more. Like, yay. Um, Usually, if you're losing, like, there's not a lot of avenue to get back into it. Usually, right? So again, it's like we're talking about very narrow use windows here, and I think that's a problem for it. But does it have a use? Yes. Is it way better than vanilla? Yeah. So I think there's a way to sneak it in. Am I going to take a passive slot for this? Fuck no. Not on a leader. Holy shit. What leaders have only actives? I don't think there's a single one. Like, if you're taking Born Leader, you've literally also lost another one. Like, does the Augur? I think no, I think that's still a passive. Like, I literally think I'm just trying to think now. If there's any leader that has 5 passive slots. So, I think that's, like, it's really hard on leaders. You're pressed for passive slots, especially Born Leaders. Yeah, there isn't, right? So I think that's another issue in the ranking system. We've talked about this now: courage, coordination, and war cry, reducing them all by one. All three of these are around the caster. Now, I love this part of it, and I think it's good. I've tried to expand my wings and move it around, and I think they're good. I think they're a little better. It's funny because I put them all here, like those skills are right here, but the fact that it's 0 and 2, I think that's a big difference maker, right? If I'm going to take those skills and those are actives, I don't mind taking one of my valuable passives and taking this skill, especially at just 2. Like that's pretty nice. So, and then that comes right to battle tongue. We talked about retreat, rallying cry. Did we talk about rallying cry? Is that one of the things down here? Is that what I'm missing? What is the crown? I'll have to figure that out. Huh. I It just might be good again. Is this where I just put the other one? I think they're both kind of good. What is this crown? Is that rallying cry? Oh, battle tongue's a flag. Wait. Oh, it's this one. Thank you. Was rallying cry the one that is all alone? This must be born leader. Is that born leader? That must be born leader. That makes sense because I haven't gone to a born leader unit yet. Yeah. Okay. These looked similar, I guess. It's confused me. Too many stars and flags and shit. That's going to be exactly what it is. So we just go to like, why not take my favorite? He becomes a crown. I don't know what to say with something like this. It's right there. Like, if you're going to take it, you're going to take it. I mean, it's not like, how do you even rate something like that? Um, it's godly because you can make a possessed a leader. Honestly, I think you do have to. I think it is like this, like whatever. No one's taking the basic. It it is elite to almost godly. Honestly, let's talk about it. Honestly, like in all seriousness, like an Eshin leader is elite to godly. Like that's a really good thing. Um, being able to replace your melee guy with maybe a mage option is like really elite to almost godly. Um, it takes up a passive, right? And not every warband is ever going to use it. Like a warrior priest, like that's godly. Bringing in a possessed, that's awful. So that alone drops it, right? So it's it allows you to take one of your guys, and it gives all these like stat. Like honestly, in all seriousness, certain builds will only work with Born Leader. And a case in point is my augur. I was trying to make this melee resistance augur, and the fact that the Born Leader ups some of her stats in the maximums unlocks builds. Like let's look at here, like toughness. It's 11, right? Oh, I'm sorry. It was right here in these skills, right? Okay, leadership only. I'm sorry. I thought it was other stats. Maybe I'm thinking about Lad's Got Talent. Increases maximum intelligence. I think it still somehow allowed me to unlock things. Yeah, see the intelligence jumps up, so you can get stuff like knowledge and Mordheim just by taking this skill. And then you get more stats into it. right? So there's certain builds. In this case, it was probably like Serenity and Alertness with also like taking some kind of 9 intelligence. Like it unlocks builds you couldn't normally have. Another one was I was finding it was unlocking skills and builds for the champion that I couldn't normally get with the basic version because it was giving core things that I needed. Um, so like that's pretty amazing. If it makes a build that's not viable in its base version suddenly viable as a champion version, like that's pretty fucking elite, if you ask me. So like again, no one's taking the basic. Like, are you shitting me? Um, you have to take the basic to take the next one, but you're probably getting a hired sword anyway. It's painful to turn a normal hero into a leader without using hired sword because of the cost and turns lost. So I guess that would be my final ranking here. I can look at it again. Like, I think a lot of the skills are very viable and useful. Like, this is a nice distribution. Like, the skills that are bad are just going to be bad. Like, it's hard to find like a way to fix them, right? Might be because they weren't useful in PvE, or it's like which is a few of these. Other ones, it's like I'm already losing in this situation with all alones. Like Jesus, and then the stun, 19 leadership to like not have like I that one needs some help for sure. And the rest are like useful and up kind of basically, except whatever that was, I didn't like it. I think that was the morale one, wasn't it? So the rest, like if you're here and up, like you definitely have a use window. Some really elite, great god, like this tier is very good tier to be in, and I think there's a lot of good leadership skills there. And this is like the category that makes things like unique. This is what makes your warband a certain function a certain way, and it's like the keys to the car, right? So this is an exhausting category. It's been an hour and a half. That's nuts. Which it has the most skills by far. The other ones, oh, that looks intense too, is intelligence. Lord help me. And then we have alertness. Intelligence is gonna like blow my fucking mind too. There's so many good skills there. I feel like alertness is gonna suffer, but it also doesn't. There's like again, this category is like very equal in my opinion, in what does what. Yeah. I'm gonna do them here today. I got nothing else to do. Just give me a little minute to like grab a little, get my sugar back up, top off my coffee, check on the dogs, and then I think we can do the next stream here in a little bit. It's funny, like looking back at some of the stuff I did with the agility. I really liked Prowl, and then I'm watching Mork. He's like, "Yeah, you could just take Onslaught instead." I'm like, "Oh yeah, why don't I just take fucking Onslaught? It's basically the same ambush skill except with weapon skill." So I would now put Prowl like a little lower and just put Onslaught a little higher instead. I was talking about the Ambush Brethren. Um, so it's fun to see like other people's takes on it. But I still think a crit ambush is like devastating in what it can do if set up correctly against the AI specifically. I've talked about how ambush like it's such it's so awkward because it's so bad in PvP. It can just like lead to desyncs. But against the AI, like ambushes can be like huge. Like ambushing a door, knowing the AI is going to walk right through it, it can be like a massive thing. So anyway, and it's fun to talk about these in PvE and PvP because I think the mod to an extent is for PvP, but also obviously PvE is a big part of it too. And I think it's okay for a skill to be absolute trash in PvE and then be useful in PvP. I think that's okay because the AI is never going to be as smart as a human. PvP is the extreme, like, how good is this skill really? So, guys, make it demoralized warband for me. Yeah, and Paranoia tries to consider progression, like how you're unlocking things, which I would say is just PvE, honestly. What's the difference? It's like progression with a little bit of PvP, I guess, but I think PvPs should mostly be considered at rank 10 because that's the most fair way to play. So, and everyone wants to have a fair match. I think progression has its own issues, which people have discussed. Like, if you're not as good at PvEs, you're going to fall behind, of course. Like, if you then, like, I think the correct way to do progression would be to take warband files at different states, which would be a lot of work. Like, the tournament master would have to take warband files of a rank 3 warband. And I think Ramon did something like this, maybe. Or he was going to, but it's a fuck ton of work. You would take every faction at rank 3 with X amount of things unlocked in gold and hand it to the competitor and say, here you go now. And you take one at rank 5 and hand it to the competitor. Here you go. This is what you use for the next round. And then take a rank 7 one and hand it, right? I think that's the only way to do a fair progression tournament. And the thought of that is just painful. So, all right, I'll call it here. I'll be back in a little bit and we'll do alertness.